How did somebody you know ruin their life in one day? Tried to kill themselves by jumping off a bridge. Survived, paralyzed from neck down. Edit, it was a female. My daughter's middle school teacher exchanged nudes with a 14-year-old on Discord across state lines. He got drunk, got in his car, drove 90 miles per hour, missed a red light and killed my niece and 3 other people. He's been in prison since 2009 and still has 6 years to go, as he plead out to 4 counts of manslaughter. I distantly know somebody who tried to cross the US-Canada border without declaring more than $10,000 in cash, which led to them searching all his stuff and finding no porn on his computer. He's in jail. Guy I knew in uni was inebriated and decided to try and clear a very tall spiked wrought iron fence. He impaled his balls and did not get to keep them. A friend of my parents was a good family man who loved his family. One day he was playing with his toddler and was playfully tossing her on the bed. She would get back up giggling and he would toss her again. In one of the tosses he threw her a bit too far and she hit a bedpost. She lived but became bedbound, unable to even talk. Not quite vegetable but close. He went to jail on child abuse. Lost his wife, his job, and his little girl would never be the same. The guilt was so much he ended it as soon as he could. A 19-year-old guy in Sydney ate a slug for a dare. Got rat lungworm disease. Went into a coma for 18 months. Woke up a vegetable confined to wheelchair needing 24-hour care. Died about 10 years later from eating a single slug. A buddy from high school blew through a stop sign and hit a couple of motorcyclists, killing them both. He didn't stop to render aid and fled the scene. He was busted for vehicular manslaughter and spent 12+ years in prison. He's lucky he can work for his dad, because where he lives now is not kind to felons trying to rehabilitate. Dude several years our junior, on the fringe of the friend group, was spiraling into depression. Decided to end it with a shotgun. Didn't get the angle right. Blew his jaw and face off. Literally. It's not for nothing that I've said ever since, there are worse things than dying. Guys got drunk in high school, drove off the highway, didn't make the turn at 90 miles per hour, 5 dead. A week ago, my little sister slipped on the ice getting out of her car and hit her head. She didn't think much of it when she had a pounding headache later, figuring she just whacked herself good. Her friend told her to just sit down and take it easy until she started slurring her words roughly 10 hours after the fall. They called an ambulance for her, but she was going into cardiac arrest. Turns out she'd stopped taking her blood thinners she was supposed to be on for clotting issues. The headache wasn't the fall, it was the clot in her leg cutting off blood to the brain. At the age of 26, she never recovered and leaves behind a 4-year-old and 2-year-old. In college, my ex's friend was pulled over for speeding. He had drugs and alcohol in his system, and when the cop reached in his truck to grab the keys, he panicked and took off, thinking the cop would let go. The cop did not let go, and was dragged for quite a ways before eventually falling to the ground and hitting his head, resulting in his death. My ex's friend was charged with capital murder and sentenced to 20 years in a Mississippi state prison. 21 years old and ruined his entire life in one night. 3 guys in high school decided to speed on the backroads after practice. Lost control, driver was decapitated, passenger had severe brain damage and unable to walk, eat, etc. on his own, and the third may have walked away, but for the rest of his life will have to live with the trauma. Great bunch of guys, just heartbreaking. Friend of mine from a wealthy Middle Eastern country, family didn't quite ruin his life but fucked it up for a while. Was in Canada on a student visa but was working after graduating and had applied for permanent residency. Got rejected, so he took out every credit card he could find and ran them all up because he was leaving the country forever that week. Tells his parents he is coming home and why. Mom makes a few phone calls and turns out the kid had screwed up some paperwork, and it was no problem to get it fixed up and approved. That was 15 years ago and he still lives here, but his credit card debt was more than his annual salary and his parents told him he was an idiot and to pay it himself. He also lost out on a job opportunity the next year because his credit was such a disaster. Kid down the street had his best friend over, and his friend, being a 13-year-old boy, was being a total dickhead. Kid picks up a shotgun his brother left lying around in the dining room and aimed at friend. Friend taunted him. Kid pulled the trigger and filled his friend's head full of buckshot. 2 families instantly devastated. Kid went to jail. I occasionally see the friend when I go out for a walk. He's a grown-up now, but is intellectually maybe 5 years old, and will be taken care of by family for the rest of his life. Yes, the friend lived, though with a lot of brain damage. Worked in Seattle Airport and a coworker decided to take his own life by stealing an airplane, fly it in loops around the Pacific Northwest airspace while being chased by the Air Force until finally going nose down. Childhood friend who relapsed from a drug addiction. He ingested fentanyl, died all alone in a filthy basement. He had been looking healthier, we reconnected, and he was planning his life going forward sober. That hurt a lot, that hope being taken away in a few minutes. Fuck opiates, fentanyl, and those who deal it. Too many lives lost every day. Stood in the wrong place. He was stood in a bar minding his own business and a fight broke out. He caught an accidental blow to the back of the head and caught his head on a wall on the way down. He never woke up. Worked with a guy. He made his kids ice cream, drugged one bowl, then put that kid to bed. Once the other kid went to sleep, he shot and killed her. Then went to the other kid's room, shot and killed her. Then called up his wife, shot and killed himself on the phone with her. Fuck you, Mark. Fuck you. He had just turned 19, summer after senior year. Dad owns a very lucrative lumber sales and construction company. He got a brand new truck for graduation and was going to start his job after summer ended with his dad. Trained to be a foreman and basically be set for life on a path to retire extremely comfortably by the age of 55. He decided to take a bunch of pills and ran a red light. T-boned a car, killing the driver instantly and crippling the passenger for life. He got off with vehicular manslaughter because his dad forked out big money to get the charges lessened. He served 13 years and got out last year. He just walks around the town now because he can't get work, own a license or vehicle. He ate dinner alone, choked, and died. Middle management type man where I used to work, came into the office every other day. He was known to be a stand-up guy, good family man, even a good boss. He got caught having sex with the new hire, lost his job, his marriage, and his kids stopped talking to him. That was 2 years ago. Last news I got, he's living in a studio apartment with a mattress on the floor, and already spent half his savings on alcohol. 30-plus year district renowned high school band director retires from teaching. High-end retirement party with a good amount of past students and colleagues celebrating his career. Daughter just had her first child. He's seemingly a happy grandfather with a happy marriage and happy life. 1 year later, he gets caught talking to a 13-year-old girl who turned out to be law enforcement undercover. The next 20 years in federal prison. A local dude was sucking the toes of his 14-year-old stepdaughter while she slept. She was awake but too scared to say anything. Mom eventually found out and shit hit the fan. Guy I knew, married and with 2 kids. He'd been adopted as a baby and reconnected with his bio family, including his 10-year-old sister who he was excited to get to know. She came to visit him planning to spend a few weeks with his family. Her first day there, he tried to molest her. She got away from him, ran to the bathroom and called 911. He lost his job, most of his friends, and his wife. She took him back when he got out of prison, though. Some kid in our senior year of high school pulled the fire alarm every day. He was getting away with it for a while. The school had town officials and the chief of the fire department and police come in and talk about the dangers. The town would send trucks and be without them if there was another emergency. None of that worked. When they offered a reward, the kid's friends ratted him out. His family had to pay for all those calls. He was expelled from school and didn't graduate. My dad once saw a patient who was a seemingly normal, well-adjusted family man in his early 40s with no major health issues and in good physical shape. He was in town for a business trip and had suddenly gone blind. Come to find out, while out with his colleagues, he had tried coke for the first time in his life. It was cut with something that created a blockage in his optic nerve and now he's blind forever. This caused him to lose his job. He had a wife and kids and was the sole breadwinner. My childhood friend Mandy found out at 15 she was pregnant and cried rape. The truth came out almost immediately because the boy she claimed was the father had recorded them fucking and she forgot about the tape. Had a friend or ex-friend at the time, he decided. So what if she's not 18 and he was a teacher? Yeah, not a good outcome. Buddy in high school got drunk and wrapped his car around a utility pole. Left a daughter behind. You would think teenage dad would have been the thing that ruined his life, but no, it was the dying. My cousin got back into drugs after having his life together and doing well for a long time. He started losing his shit. Apparently he had some underlying schizophrenia they think the drug use brought out. He took a rifle to a store parking lot and shot a guy, ran over his body, then had a police standoff. Said he shot the president or some crazy shit like that. Needless to say, he ruined his life, took another and destroyed another family in the process. Knew a guy my freshman year of college. Easily the most socially awkward person I've ever met. Not necessarily a bad guy, but a really weird one. He was expelled for making a bomb threat. No idea what happened to him after that, but I can't imagine anything good. Me. I didn't believe my mom. She said she'd kick me out at 18, so I never bothered to get a part-time job to save money. My 18th birthday came around, and I said nope to her when she asked if I'd gotten a job or had living arrangements figured out. The next day, I came home from a friend's place to a laundry basket of clothing at the door. She drove me to a homeless shelter and never let me come back home. A kid I knew growing up and was friends with was 16 and his friend who was 15 lured 2 other kids to a field who were 13 and 16 where they shot them and dismembered them over weed. Weren't found for 2 weeks and only because the one kid showed another kid. Ruined many families and lives that day. This was a shock to our entire community. Neither one of the boys who killed them had prior criminal history or any sort of issues anyone knew or picked up on. My ex from when I was 17 got in car accident from drunk driving and trying to street race, lost control on a corner and hit a tree. The impact instantly killed killed him, sending his head halfway through the windshield, and ejected his cousin out of the car who lived. He was missing his pinky at the funeral, and the pictures of the car was gut-wrenching. Fast forward to present time, his uncle was arrested for murder a few years back of a 21-year-old girl he shot execution style and left in a field. I stayed a summer with them when I was with my ex, and it's crazy to think that I could have been in danger at any given time. Really great friend in high school huffed glue in her bedroom one night and died. It was really weird. BC, no one knew she was doing at Halland's, and she didn't fit the glue huffing stereotype. She was extremely social and well-liked, extremely smart, athletic. She was the head chair in band in her section, and really into jazz band, but at night, she'd huff fucking glue. My friend's brother got too drunk, got violent. Cops came and he fought them. Once restrained, he started threatening to find and kill their children. Never seemed to get his life back on track after that. My dad went snorkeling and got a clot in his lung. Died on the beach being held by his wife. A coworker of mine who had a very successful management-level job at a big corporation paralyzed themselves from the waist down after trying to climb up a rain pipe on a drunken dare. They couldn't work for almost a year, returned in a very junior position, and were basically making minimum wage. Their life savings disappeared in a couple of months despite them being amazing at saving, and last I saw them they were made redundant when COVID hit. No idea what their situation is now. He didn't properly secure a ladder on a building site. He then fell off said ladder and fractured 3 vertebrae. Lucky enough not to be paralyzed, but he spent nearly 2 months in hospital and then 3 months in a body cast from his armpits to his arsehole. His missus took this opportunity to leave him for a yuppie scumbag, taking his kids with her. He's been battling with depression and chronic pain for over a decade since then. Had a friend in college. We were both training to be pilots. His dad owned an insurance company and gave him the company's credit card to pay for all his flight hours with. He got about 2 years and he finished his first license. $30,000 to $50,000. Got a Dewey halfway through his second license. Pilot career down the drain. On top of that, his father's company will be paying for it. Jim, a kid I went to high school with, gave a bunch of other kids a ride home in his pickup truck. The other kids rode in the bed as he drove each of them home. You can already see where this is going, I think. Anyway, Jim tried to make a light, but he came up way short. Traffic on the opposite side already had a green light. Jim's truck hit a car in the middle of the intersection, sending the kids riding in the back flying through the air. 2 of the kids died from their injuries, while one of the other ones got helicoptered to the ICU. Making matters worse, the car he hit was driven by Erin, a girl we went to high school with. All she did was proceed through the intersection when the light turned green. Like, literally nobody blamed her at all. But she was only 16 and had just started driving. But she never signed up to be involved in a crash where people fucking died. The incident sent her over the edge. She had a nervous breakdown and I never saw her again. Life wasn't easy for Jim after that. The other students in school were merciless to him. He obviously felt horrible about what happened. But self-flagellation was apparently not enough for the other students. Eventually, Jim had to leave the school because his safety was legit in danger. Jim's situation might have been exacerbated by some very forgiving parents. One of them said words to the effect of he's already suffering and he'll suffer even more in the future. I can't bring myself to add to his pain. I don't think the other kids took kindly to the parents just letting it go. But I can't prove that. I have no idea what Erin or Jim are up to these days. But I hope they're both better. Guy from my high school got drunk and stoned and swerved off the road, driving his car into an 8-year-old girl, killing her. She was leaving a pajama party, walking in someone's front yard while holding hands with her mom. The mom lived. The guy got like 5 years house arrest or something, so he's free now, but his reputation and name are forever ruined. Witnesses at the scene said he first tried to run away and was stopped, then called his mom and said, "I just ruined my life." Handful of guys from my graduating high school class were expelled after 1 semester of college, ranging from underage drinking, cheating academically, sexual assault, public intoxication, or quitting college to find oneself as they blow away their trust fund by traveling to Europe and binge drinking. Old friend of mine relapsed and dead on fentanyl 3 days ago. Opioids have ruined my area. I've lost 4 or 5 out of 70 classmates I graduated with 10 years ago, all gone from overdosing. Gambling. All their savings, the house, a motorbike. She walked out, eventually, got her life back. Him, who knows? Old coworker went to Vegas, felt really good about his odds due to the liquor, and ended up betting his entire life savings on roulette, and lost. He ended up losing his house, his wife, kids, and from what I've seen he lives in a tiny apartment and works a min-wage job. My uncle had a girlfriend who wanted coke. He had this amazing Camaro he had been rebuilding for years. Literally my entire childhood I remember him working on this canary yellow Camaro. His girlfriend wanted coke. He sold this car for 10 Kelvin to get it for her. Once the money, coke was gone, so was she, but he was addicted. He died alone in his apartment a few years later. He was 52. Fuck you, Tamara. My stepbrother got married at 18. He was a nice guy, but had a quick temper and drank too much. About 2 years into the marriage, he and his wife got into an argument while he was drunk. He hopped on his motorcycle without his helmet and took off. He took out 4 mailboxes on 4x4 posts, suffered a severely broken arm, and now has the mental capacity of a 5-year-old. Years later, his brother, who was supposed to take care of him, went through his bank account. Had a friend who was a compulsive spender. Buy a $9,000 sports motorcycle. Spend $1,200 getting it customized. Trade it in 9 months later for $3,000 towards another new one. Guy could probably have a house and be ahead on mortgage with all of the money he spent on stuff he was stupid about. Well, one day, he must have put his credit card number into a hot singles in your area scam. Woke up and his bank account had been cleaned out. Needed to move back into his parents' house and declare bankruptcy. Also borrowed $1,000 from me that I never saw a cent of before he ghosted me. Sad thing about the situation is, even though I did want the money back, I had no intention of disowning his friendship. Pushed his girlfriend down a flight of stairs in front of almost everyone he knew seconds after she announced to everyone that she was pregnant with his kid. I ain't sure if she miscarried or if she just decided not to have that psycho's kid, but he spent a few years in prison over it, and he ain't welcome anywhere no more. She walks with a cane at 30. I worked for a company that had a very prestigious grad program. Getting in and completing it was a fast track to senior management either in our firm or any other in our industry. We treated them very well and had a social event for the new intake. One of the grads sexually assaulted one of the other grads. She decided not to take it to the police, even though we encouraged her to and offered her all the support she needed to deal with it. Needless to say, he was immediately fired and blackballed from the entire industry. One of the senior managers who recruited the guy took his mistake very personally and has been following his career closely via LinkedIn. Every time he gets a half-decent job, a discreet phone call is made and he fails his probation. I was at a casino down in Atlantic City because we were staying by the shore nearby and said why not. I played and won $60 and chickened out from playing anymore. This old man is in front of the cash out area, and the lady behind the glass told him his bank account was empty. My brother got into the car with his friend, whom he knew had drank too much. He quite literally ended his life. I'm not looking for attention or condolences, but just remember that it's not just being the drunk driver that you have to think about. Coworker was grooming a child. Everyone else calls it sexting with a teen across state lines. He then went to pick her up for the weekend, and the following Monday the feds showed up to walk him out of work. Dude was going through a divorce and just went ham with his 401k money and wanted to diddle kids. Showed up to work with a few ounces of heroin in his bag, and security picked him for a random bag check. He was originally charged with trafficking and pled down to simple possession. I think he might get out of prison in a couple of more years. Lost a good paying job, his wife divorced him, and he's barred from seeing his children once he gets out because of the drug charges. She had children when she didn't want to be a mother. Babies don't keep a man.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and leave a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to get more content like this. Also check out our other videos.